Welcome to the buymeacoffee.com/jamespoeartistry, the coffee tips page that supports my James Poeartistry creative productions and work. See also jamespoeartistry.online. Hello, James Poeartistry productions and Perceptive readers, listeners. This is James Lynch. Today, I have something special planned for you. And it's so special, believe it or not, instead of drinking coffee first in the morning, I'm actually already drinking tea. Yeah. I'm drinking tea first. Normally I start by drinking coffee, and then, I normally make sure that I stay hydrated uh, at times in the late afternoon or what have you, drinking tea, because tea is like what coffee takes out of you in the form of water. The tea can put it right back in you, you see. But all the same, because of what I knew I wanted to do today, I just took a sip of tea. Uh, I actually said, no, let me go ahead and start with the tea so that my voice will be as well groomed as it can be, for what I'm going to do this morning. Now, let me tell you, I'm actually adjusting some of what I'm saying because I was listening to an interview, a question that was asked of Charlie Munger. Now, I want you to know that I wasn't planning on actually, relating any of this information. This was just one of those, things that happened. I wasn't listening as intently because I was already rolling some stuff around in my mind this morning. But since I saw an interview with Charlie Munger, I just went on ahead and, I I listened to it. And here is another reason why I said, okay, I'm going to add this to my additional thoughts that I was going to say this morning in the first place. And the question dealt with, so remember, I am jumping around, but I want you to know there was one point in particular that I told you when it started already lining up in the way that you're thinking and the way that he reasoned, then I said, yeah, I'll go ahead and add this one in there. So what happened is the woman was talking about government and how the good that, the government forms into, what they're able to accomplish, see, I'm adding some of my thought, industrialized the nations and now technology on the level that, it's astronomical. I'm adding extra stuff that has really helped their countries. She basically was saying, what type of decisions would he make, you see, to protect that government from basically falling into perversity or collapsing within on itself, or all the good that they built up all of a sudden, a lot of situations start turning into what I call catch-22 situations, where it's like, man, you're condemned or damned if you do and damned if you don't. So you already see where my line of thinking was going on this. Well, she was asking, what would Charlie Munger do to protect that? And he referenced how it is a difficult question, but he did it as a joke, saying, yeah, she gave him the easiest question for last. But no, he was really still making a joke, about how hard that solution was for governments. And he even referenced, even Plato couldn't even answer that type of question. So he went on ahead and he used the example of the Prime Minister of Singapore from the was it 50s or 60s or what have you, 50s, 60s, 70s, around about that time frame. In other words, I know I'm going to listen to that interview again, but what he was mentioning, uh, how it was Singapore and what that prime minister did uh, was a nice learning point, you see, teaching point, if you will, uh, because of the simple fact, and we're getting close to what I told you I came to the conclusion on, even before he said it, he was mentioning some of the policies that he was putting in place, the way he looked at matters. And then he even referenced that, it basically seemed obvious that God in heaven was really behind them as well. And I thought that was interesting because to first answer that question of what that interviewer was asking of him about how can you protect the good that the government is doing or what have you. And I'm letting you know right now that the thought did come to my mind was it would still take a theocracy on top of that. And that's why I'm referencing this interview, because when he said that it was like heaven and God that was helping them to get on their feet the way that they are today, to, turn into a bustling economy. And, let me tell you, that falls right in line, at least working still towards a theocracy. And a theocracy actually means ruled by God, or God ruled. Okay. Now, this is what I'm going to add in addition to this, to what we've talked about, because this is what's so important, though. We have to still consider the period of what we're in right now today. See, and that's where some problems come in at as well. Persons can learn these good methods and good ideologies and theologies and things of that nature, but guess what? They automatically then start going into what I would call a master race mindset. So even though God hasn't even, poured out his final judgment, so to speak, on the world and said, look, I'm coming down and just sitting down in my tent and going to make all the decisions from there. You see, they already then try to arrange situations where they say, well, we already know that we're right, so we still gonna just go ahead and treat these other persons as if, they shouldn't even, be here anymore. And so that's where the problem comes in at. And this is what I'm going to say about that. In my observation, I don't believe people should do that. I really do believe that there's still enough evidence from what I read in the Bible, even when Jesus was saying, my kingdom is no part of this world. So we are still supposed to do the best we can. You see what I'm saying? With the love our neighbor and ourselves and God principles, you see, and allow just for certain allowances, whether God will get rid of them in the future or not. And one example was given, Charlie Munger was talking how in Singapore, it was at least just a statement or certain statements you just couldn't make or you would be charged. And yes, it affected freedom of speech. It certainly did. He brought that out. But he was saying that, these were certain laws that was just made. And see, this is the point that I'm bringing out that I do disagree with. And the reason why I do disagree with such a law being put in place is because of what I've already stated earlier about people getting into this master race mindset. So you can be talking about curtailing freedom of speech one day, but don't be surprised within a few days or weeks anymore, then your own freedom of speech is curtailed or blocked out because of something that you said that you were not expecting because you thought you were totally in the right. And now here it is, you breaking law for what you said. See, that works all the way around. And so that's one reason why I say in the age that we're living in, no, we still shouldn't mess around with freedom of speech. Because I told you before, it's the actions. Any actions that come from that, come from what people do, then that's what you address. But someone just saying, I don't like you because uh, my view is better than yours. My outfit is better than yours, or whatever. You know what I'm talking about. Then it's like, you got to leave that in place so that everybody can still be able to express themselves and express their beliefs. You see what I'm saying there? And so it really goes to show that I focus on the here and now, at least in that way. He also brought out, and I've talked about this years ago, that one of the reasons one country, I'm not going to mention it, you have to look at the interview. He said one of the reasons that one country has problems as well is because it's like they can at times know that this is just a totally bad idea. It's falling apart. I always use the expression, look, the barn is on fire. Put the fire out put the barn out, put the fire out the barn, out the barn. Okay, I said the barn, the barn. But, make sure you put the fire out. And I told you just got some people who will just watch it. They'll watch it. And then the barn gone. And what does the barn represent? It represents subsistence, covering, thriving economy. See, it represents all of that. And when I was talking about it, and yet, as he was saying, you just have some persons sometimes who just want to prove a point on saying, well, let them know how bad it is, when it finally happens, what have you. And, even Charlie Munger said, he didn't agree with that. And, for myself, I don't even agree with that either. I just think that's just ludicrous. No pun intended. That's just ludicrous to do stuff like that. And the reason why I said this applies to all sectors, because I told you sometimes when people get in their own groups, their own circles, their own economic groups, it's interesting because sometimes they'll have the mindset, well, that's them over there. They can let their stuff fall apart or what have you. We good over here. I understand that thinking. I really do. But what I'm still saying all the same is, when you still have a community, whether persons appreciate it or not, sometimes that very circle that you do not appreciate in your local community or what have you is still providing services on the level that you don't know about just because you don't patronage. And so when it goes out, then the next thing you know, don't be surprised if your own little thriving circle or economy is falling apart as well, that you weren't expecting. And so either way, I just wanted to share that with you. And in closing, that's what I mean, that eventually when God does sit down on his tent on the earth, you see, I'm using that as an expression based on the scriptures, that then it will be a total theocracy. And even problems with speech, etc., he will make all things clear and right, so to speak. And when in that case, I really want to emphasize with our hearts and minds constantly moving towards loving thy neighbor in such a wonderful way that we know how to love, it will be no problem. I'm not going to say it's not going to be no problem But I'm just telling you, this is what your heart wants anyway. This is what your mind wants anyway. And I told you, we're going to enjoy life on a level that may not be fully understood or can comprehend right now. But I'm telling you, with the theocracy, it will keep all this good management, you see, in place, administration in place, and it'll be done in more than an exemplary way that, see, at least Charlie Munger did allude to when he was talking about what happened in Singapore, just on a small scale, okay, just on a small scale at least, of what he was talking about. It'll be expounded upon in such a level. And with the theocracy of God rule, it will work. And as the scriptures helps us to see, it will endure forever. Take care of yourselves, perceptive readers. Bye-bye.